Shalom, holy brothers and sisters. This week's Bible portion is Parshat Miketz, and we left off when Joseph was falsely accused of raping Potiphar's wife, and he was thrown in jail. And Joseph was in jail for about 12 years, and he's now approximately 30 years old. His father Jacob, whose new name is Israel, since he wrestled with the angel, is approximately 120 years old, and his grandfather Isaac is 180 years old. So now what happens is that his cellmates in jail, which was actually like a dungeon, the Hebrew word is bol, which means like a hole in the ground. His cellmates have these disturbing dreams, and Jacob's gift for interpreting dreams is discovered, and they are pleased with the way that he interprets their dreams. And what happens is that later Paro, the Pharaoh of Egypt, also has some very troubling dreams, and nobody in the whole land of Egypt can interpret them satisfactorily. So the word gets to Pharaoh that Joseph is this amazing dream interpreter. So Joseph is rushed out of jail in order to interpret the Pharaoh's dream. And so this is the line from the Bible. It's Genesis chapter 41, verse 14. Vayishlach Paro, and Pharaoh sent. Vayikra et Yosef, and he called for Joseph. Vayaritzehu min habor, and they ran with him from the prison. So they didn't just like take him out of prison. It was like this like intense like escape. He was rushed out of prison. So when Joseph was imprisoned and he was in jail for 12 years, he never knew that there would be an end in sight. But from here we learn that a person should never be in despair, because we never know when salvation can come, and the salvation can come at any second, and when it does come, it could be in an instant, and then your whole life changes. There's a saying in Hebrew, Yeshuat Adonai ke'eref ayin, which means the salvation of God is like the eye of a needle. It's like in one split second, your life can go from being a slave to being a viceroy, which is what happened to Joseph. So we learn from here a lesson that no matter how bad things seem like they are, and for Joseph it was pretty bad being in jail for 12 years, a person should never lose hope, because in an instant things could change for the better. So we always need to have that hope for salvation. So the Pharaoh is very pleased with Joseph's interpretation, and not only that, he finds a solution to the problem. One of the Pharaoh's dreams was that there were 7 skinny cows and 7 fat cows, and the 7 skinny cows ate the 7 fat cows. And Joseph interpreted it to mean that there were going to be 7 years of plenty, and then there's going to be 7 years of famine. And then he also provided the solution that in the years of plenty, they needed to save grain for the years of the famine, so that during the famine, when the crops were not growing, they would still have an ample supply for all of themselves and all of their people. So Pharaoh made Joseph, who was young, he was a slave, and he was a foreigner, and he made him second in command. Joseph was the viceroy of Egypt. So against all odds, Joseph rose from nothing to a lot of power. So from here we learn that whatever God's will is to be done will be done. So sometimes when the odds seem impossible for us to surmount, whenever we're in a situation where we think that we're not going to get the job, or things don't look good for us, that if it's what the Almighty desires, that regardless of any of the challenges or the things that may seem like the situation does not look very good, if it's God's will, then it's going to happen regardless of how things how difficult things may seem. So once Joseph is brought into the house of Pharaoh, into his viceroy position, he's also given a wife, and it's really fascinating who his wife ends up being. And it ends up being actually his niece. Dinah, if you remember last week or 2 weeks ago, she was raped by Shechem, and the daughter of that rape was actually sent to Egypt, and she was adopted by Potiphar and his wife. And so the fact that Potiphar agreed to let Joseph marry his adopted daughter vindicated Joseph and showed the whole people that Joseph was actually innocent of the accused rape of Potiphar's wife, because a man whose wife was raped by somebody is never going to let that person marry his daughter, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So clearly, if Potiphar is letting Joseph marry his adopted daughter, then it means that Potiphar believes that Joseph is innocent of raping his wife. So that was an interesting turn of events. And so Joseph ends up marrying his niece, because Dinah is his sister, and his sister's daughter is Osnat, and they were spiritual soulmates. She was on a very high spiritual level. She was a very righteous woman. Osnat and Joseph have 2 sons, and they are Ephraim and Menashe. And Ephraim and Menashe got along very well, unlike the previous siblings that we saw throughout the Bible, Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, and Joseph and his brothers. There was a lot of sibling rivalry, including murder between brothers and extreme jealousy and hatred, all kinds of dramatic stories between brothers. But Menashe and Ephraim were brothers that were pious. They had a good relationship with one another, and they were upright people. So every Friday night after we do the blessing on the wine, parents who have sons bless them to be like Ephraim and Menashe. In chapter 43, verse 6, it says, Vayomer Yisrael, and Jacob said, and whose name is now Israel, Lama hiratem li, why did you cause me bad? Lehagid laish, to tell the man being Joseph, not knowing that the viceroy is his son Joseph. Laish, he just called him the man. Ha'od lechem ach, that you have another brother. So Jacob is still mourning the loss of his son Joseph, that he never had resolution for, that he never had closure for, because there was not a body. He didn't know exactly what happened. He was, to his son. His son was lost. And now the brothers want to take Benjamin back to Egypt, and Jacob is afraid to lose Benjamin too. He's the last son of his wife Rachel. He had the 12 tribes, but only 2 of them came from Rachel, and those were Joseph and Benjamin. So he's really kind of heartbroken and very hesitant to let Benjamin out of his sight. So from here, we're learning about prematurely evaluating situations as negative. So it seemed like it would be a very bad thing to lose another son, but in truth, God had a bigger plan in store for them, and Jacob should have had more faith that things would not be turning out badly. And the last thing that I want to share with you comes from chapter 43, verse 34. And Joseph took and sent portions to them before him, and Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they drank and became inebriated with him. So what's going on here is that Joseph still has not revealed to his brothers that he is the brother that they sold to slavery, and he wanted to test them and see if they were jealous of Benjamin, because Benjamin was their father's beloved wife's child. So he did not come from the same mother as the rest of the brothers. The rest of the brothers came from Leah and the 2 other maidservants. and it was well known that their father Jacob, who's now Israel, favored Joseph and Benjamin. So Joseph gave them this test now to see, okay, he gave Benjamin 5 times more than they got, but when he saw that the brothers were not jealous of Benjamin's extra portions, it aroused the compassion inside him, and he saw that they had really mastered the trait that they were supposed to correct, which was envy and jealousy. So that's it for today. Next week we have the resolution of this dramatic story. Thanks for watching. Shabbat Shalom, and please subscribe and share. Bye.
Oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy Gewalt.